Hello and welcome to the Diamond Report for Tuesday, May 16th, 2017. This is your host, Doug Diamond. It's currently 10:21 p.m. and we're looking at Earthquake 3D. And also, we're looking at the 9th magnitude 6.0 earthquake here in Guam. Right here, this uppermost ring. This one right below it is also a magnitude 6.0 that I mentioned last night. In the Solomon Islands in eastern Papua New Guinea. But this one is the 9th magnitude 6.0 quake since the CERN restart on May 8th. So we're looking at 9 magnitude 6.0 quakes. One of them was a 7. The others range from magnitude 6 to about 6.5 or so. And we've also had numerous magnitude 5.8s, 5.9s, others that are very close to 6.0s as well. But just for the sake of argument here, I'm just showing you magnitude 6s. And just for the fun of it, let's look at the magnitude 5.0 earthquakes over the last week. Again, the lighter circles are the newest quakes. The dark red circles are the oldest quakes. This is the last week's worth of magnitude 5.0 and larger earthquakes globally. As you can see, there are a lot of them. I'm not attributing all of that to CERN's activity, but I do find it interesting, as I keep mentioning, just that it coincides with their restart. And while we're at it, we might as well just look at everything. The last week's worth of everything, magnitude 2.0 and above. This is showing me 1,675 earthquakes globally. Gives you a real feel for what the Earth has gone through in the last 7 days. But this is everything magnitude 2.0 and above. So as you can see, there's a lot of rings on this globe. Let me back the ring size down and then you can probably get a little bit better feel for how many quakes it really is. You can really see the North American craton there. Goes down here, goes back up, goes back down, and then right back up the eastern seaboard. So, over the last week, when you look at that, it gives you some pretty good data that you can go off of when you're forecasting these quakes. Anyway, there you have it. Let's move on to the headlines. We don't need a Republican revolution. What we really need is a conservative revolution. That's from Michael Snyder of Into the American Dream. EU depicts itself as, quote, fairy godmother, flying migrants to, quote, racist Europe on a magic carpet. I guess purportedly to save Europe from itself, or from the bastions of nationalism. Refugee in Germany blinds and mutilates friend in bizarre attack over reported €50 debt. The German authorities are struggling to gain an insight into the motives of the attacker. Well, he was probably Islamic, and therefore he's entitled to do whatever he wants in the course of advancing Islam. Deep State illegally leaks classified info to media to demonize Trump for legally disclosing classified info. That's on Information Liberation. Saying Mr. Trump's disclosure does not appear to have been illegal means it was not illegal, but we're going to word it in a way that makes it seem like it could be. McMaster responds to WAPO, Washington Post, quote, I was in the room, it didn't happen, the story is false. The story that came out tonight is reported as false. I was in the room, it didn't happen. That's on Zero Hedge. From Breitbart, was DNC hack an inside job after all? No crazier than the idea that Russia colluded with Donald Trump. Trey Gowdy says he's not the right person to lead the FBI. Congressman was considered a top candidate to replace Comey. That's on the Daily Caller. Police sources, Seth Richard had contact with Wikileaks, which that's what everyone had been expecting to hear. Multiple sources concur on Rich's link to Wikileaks. I'm sure the Clinton campaign probably found out about it and did him in. Did the Washington Post publish dubious Russia story to distract from Seth Rich bombshell? D.C. police ordered to cover up revelation that Rich was in contact with Wikileaks. Officer overdoses on high-potency opioid fentanyl after brief contact during pat-down. Synthetic painkiller poses major risk in minute doses. That's on RT. Netherlands faces another election as coalition talks collapse. Spin doctor for Democratic Party denies Seth Rich connected to WikiLeaks. BuzzFeed story fails to note Bauman's connection to the Dems. Drudge slams media Bloodsport of going after Trump. Trump detractors say he is more of a threat to the U.S. than North Korea or ISIS. McMaster exposed as White House leaker. Inside information exposes anti-Trump forces in Washington. Patients say RoundUp gave us cancer as EPA official helped the company. Key ingredient in popular weed killer RoundUp is probably carcinogenic to humans. Of course it is. It's not even debatable anymore. IRS pleads to judge. People would kill us if we testify. Once again, the IRS is up to something fishy. Aren't they always? Trump says, I have absolute right to share facts with Russia. I want Russia to greatly step up their fight against ISIS and terrorism. That's on the Hill. WikiLeaks publishes documents showing how Google helped Al-Qaeda in Syria. Google provided a software tool with which defections in Syria were to be tracked. SCOTUS rejects voter ID, but real Jim Crow is war on drugs. Liberals really need to get their priorities straight. That's from David Knight. Globalist magazine claims American Revolution, quote, was a mistake. Anti-Trump magazine says America should have been more like Canada. Clapper, defender or destroyer of democracy and Constitution. The mainstream media has come to Clapper's aid, portraying him as a justice-seeking American. Well, when the mainstream media is defending you, you know you're on the wrong side. And it's pretty easy to tell when the mainstream media is defending somebody, whether or not you should trust them or not. If they're defending Clapper, obviously he's a criminal and should not be trusted. WannaCry, attacked by nation-state or freelance criminals. Vulnerable infrastructure must be secured. Claim Justice Antonin Scalia believed Obama spied on the Supreme Court. Scalia held suspicion previous presidential administration monitored communications inside the highest court. From Sky.com, healthy teen dies after drinking too much caffeine. The 16-year-old drank a large Mountain Dew, a latte, and an energy drink in just under 2 hours. He probably gave himself a heart attack. Mega hoax, WAPO caught fabricating Trump leak. Globalist media outlet pushes fake news. Well, that's what WAPO does. History is full of climate change myths that were used to control human behavior. That's on Return of Kings. And as I always say when talking about climate change, I always call it climate changed because it's been done on purpose. And also, you cannot have a discussion about climate change without talking about the reality of geoengineering or climate engineering that's also going on. That is putting the D on climate changed. That's what's doing it primarily. The Washington Post stinks worse than the Onion. That's pretty bad. Fake news stories continue to flood the internet. Yeah, but the fake news claims that they're real news, and they claim that the real news is fake news. So you just have to keep that in mind. French city on lockdown as armed cops open fire on knife men. Suspect stabbed man to death. That's on the Daily Star. Russia calls WAPO report on Trump intel sharing, quote, utter nonsense. Microsoft is PO'd at the NSA over WannaCry attack. NSA is supposed to disclose most of these vulnerabilities rather than hold them for offensive use. Well, that's what the NSA does. Scientists fearful of ecological risks sparked by GMO microalgae. The concern is we're going to create a monster. Chucky Schumer is a flying monkey that crawled out of Obama's ... Globalist puppet Schumer will do and say whatever the establishment wishes. He's proven that over and over and over again. Number of babies born with opioid withdrawal symptoms rises sharply. Report turncoats from within Trump administration to push for impeachment. Insiders behind leaks will intensify efforts to sabotage president. One of the world's most deadly chemicals appearing in staggering percentage of heroin and cocaine. Roughly 60% of drug overdoses in British Columbia are linked to the synthetic opioid fentanyl. Millennials need adulting school. In order to undo the brainwashing millennials received at college, an alternative education is needed. America Reloaded. The bizarre story behind the FBI's fake documentary about the Bundy family. Trump will speak to Muslim leaders in Saudi Arabia about radical Islam. Trump leaves for his first foreign trip as president on Friday. I really wish he would stay out of Saudi Arabia. Trump needs us to back him to the hilt. Support for President Trump is needed now more than ever. I do support him except for when he starts acting like a globalist, in which case I no longer support him. It's that simple. The human body needs daily detox of harmful chemicals. Everyday products contain harmful chemicals that your body absorbs. That is so true. We talk about this all the time on Lost Arts Radio. LostArtsRadio.com. Video, Seth Rich investigator says he's uncovered possible underground organized crime corruption group. Well, that sounds like Hillary Clinton to me. Bombshell that's not really a bombshell. Study reveals unvaccinated children are healthier. Well, of course they are. They don't have all those toxic chemicals rushing around inside their body. Tim Allen stunned and blindsided by ABC's decision to cancel hit show. Petition launched by fans to bring back popular conservative sitcom. Yeah, well, they may bring it back, but they'll just sabotage it and do something else to make it either terrible or whatever so that it doesn't last. They'll still get rid of him. Investigative journalists say Seth Rich sent over 44,000 emails to Wikileaks. Evidence shows Seth Rich was the leaker. I think most people who know anything about this realized that months ago. Berkeley student fees fund $2.7 million gender-neutral locker room. That was money well spent, wasn't it? Whites banned from cafe designated as non-white, quote, sanctuary. From Breitbart, high school assistant principal resigns after cursing at pro-life student activists. Deep State leaks highly classified info to Washington Post to smear Trump. That's also on Breitbart. Family's private investigator, there is evidence Seth Rich had contact with Wikileaks prior to death. Forsaken Sultan, Erdogan isolated ahead of Trump meeting in Washington. That's on 21stcenturywire.com. Phoenix Trump Nazi billboard funded with taxpayer dollars. I think I mentioned that several days ago. That's on judicialwatch.org. Liberals are an inferno of flaming crazy, and we should pour gasoline on the fire. Their ego-driven drive to dominate normal people and shape us into new socialist, non-gendered beings has blinded them to the bitter reality. That's on townhall.com. Anti-jihad crusader Robert Spencer poisoned in Iceland. Political violence by leftists is on the rise, not only in the U.S., but in Iceland as well, it appears. That's on AmericanThinker.com. Survey, nearly half of white, working-class Americans say they feel like a stranger in their own country. That's on Breitbart. And another Mars story. Mars voyage will include 1-year layover in moon orbit. It's a long journey to Mars, and those along for the ride will have to have an extended stay in the moon's orbit. I don't know if I buy any of that. You do know that they can send a 3D printer to Mars and send digital DNA from here to there and print out an actual human being on Mars with no travel required. You know that, right? Open Sesame at Middle East's CERN regional cooperation at light speed. Israel and its neighbors, including Iran and Pakistan, joined forces to build the region's first particle accelerator. Steve says the genies they let out will not be their friends. That's on timesofisrael.com. So yes, there are particle accelerators all over the world. CERN is the most well-known one and the most well-funded one, and it sits on what the Bible considers the pit. The pit is referred to in Revelation, the book of Revelation. So CERN, to me, is the main concern. But there are accelerators, particle accelerators, throughout the world. They're all over the place. And here's a magnitude 3.2 Western Kentucky, second earthquake this week in the New Madrid. And we keep covering the New Madrid and the North American Craton pretty much every single day on the Diamond Report. So that is not new news. Facebook shuts down pro-life group's account, saying its ads are, quote, misleading. That's on lifenews.com. Whistleblowers James Comey seized and buried information showing Trump's phone calls were spied on. That's on bigleaguepolitics.com. The top 5 principles of preparedness and self-sufficiency. That's on Survival Dan 101. Yeah, if you're into prepping, survivaldan101.com is an excellent website. Yet another powerful eruption occurred at Russia's Shevelush volcano on May 16th. The eruption sent ash up to 33,000 feet above sea level. That's on watchers.news. The U.S.-Russian pedophile connection, and it's not what you think. Here's the interview about the most heinous crime on the face of the planet. That's from The Common Sense Show and Dave Hodges. Calls for violence against those who practice freedom of speech opposing vaccines reaches mainstream media. Steve says, they who call for this are promoters of murder, in my opinion, and promoting assassinations. They go beyond hate and are demonic. I totally agree. Original article on healthimpactnews.com. The end could come in a flash, and you have been warned. WannaCry, a major sign to prepare. Time is running out. Astonishing map shows how quickly things can spiral completely out of control. That's from All News Pipeline. If a U.S. economic collapse occurs, it will happen quickly. That's because the signs are everywhere, but people refuse to see. That's on survivalonline101.com. I saw this headline this morning, couldn't believe it. Christian pastor in Bible Belt admits personally worshiping Allah. Muslim deity takes over church as leaders claim to honor the same God. Well, Allah and the God of the Bible are not the same God, and these wimp pastors that go along to get along only really care about one thing, and that is putting money in the church's coffers. It pretty much always comes back to 501c3 and the church retaining the ability to keep all of its money and not have to spend any in taxes. That's usually what it comes down to. So political correctness is very important to them because they don't want to offend anybody who might be thinking of giving them a little bit of money. It's the very opposite of what Jesus taught. More weather warfare, an apocalyptical dust storm, heavy thunderstorms, and large hail swept across Iowa, damaging homes and cars. Methodic energy induced storms with tornado and severe thunderstorm warnings for a large part of northeast Iowa. That's on strangesounds.org. Mainstream media buries the biggest story of the year of murdered DNC staffers' connection to Wikileaks with yet another fake news story. Is the mainstream media deliberately trying to cover up a murder? Yes, yes, yes. Of course they are. That's what they do. This is on All News Pipeline. Hackers unleash second NSA-developed cyber weapon on the dark web. We do not think this is the end of the crisis. The hackers have already evolved the malware and will probably continue to do so. You think? That's on Zero Hedge. Wow, very well done video. The twisted, hidden hands of the United Nations exposed. This is the trailer. Again, the film is called The Twisted, Hidden Hands of the United Nations Exposed. Ford to lay off 20,000 workers after profits dropped 35% in 2017. Steve says the car financing business is in huge trouble. Who's going to buy all the cars now that the middle class is destroyed? Well, that's a good question. And how long can these car manufacturers continue to buy their own cars? Which they do. I mean, that's the proverbial snake eating its own tail. How long can you keep that up? The original article is on thomasdeshaw.com. The exponential growth of insecurity. Humans are proving to be the most stupid of the life forms. They create weapons that cannot be used without destroying themselves. That's by Paul Craig Roberts. America's reign of terror. A nation reaps what it sows. The means of defense against foreign danger have always been the instruments of tyranny at home. A quote from James Madison. From Breitbart, people died when Obama administration revealed classified bin Laden intel. That's a good point. This is on Newsmax.com. North Korea's latest missile test brings us one step closer to World War III. It's on SHTFplan.com. Elite pedophile ring victim details sickening abuse at hands of the cabal. Conspiracy unravels. Seth Rich may have been killed for ties to Wikileaks. We were told to stand down on this case. That's on SHTFplan.com. Denmark warns DTP vaccine increases child mortality rate tenfold. Government threatening to invade organic farms to spray RoundUp. And here's more about that story. Organic farm under threat by county government. This is from Health Nut News, but you can find the article on LostArtsRadio.com. Just go to LostArtsRadio.com and click on articles, and you'll find it there. The Azure Standard Farm. A certified organic farm in Central Oregon is currently under threat from the county government. You see, they want to spray Azure farms with herbicides like RoundUp, which contain the active ingredient glyphosate. This simply cannot stand. If they do that, they'll pretty much wreck the entire farm. So to help the farm, contact Sherman County Court via email, and then there's the email address. You can also call Lauren at, and then there's her phone number, and express your concern about the county thinking they have the right to spray an organic and private farm with cancer-causing ingredients. There's more information and a couple of videos on here too. Organic farm under threat, Azure organic farm, an important update. And just as a little bit of inside information, Richard Sachs is in contact with, Richard Sachs is the host of Lost Arts Radio, the radio show that I'm the engineer and producer of. He's in contact with a couple people from this farm, and we're supposed to have them on this Sunday's radio show as guests. So we should be able to talk to them and interview them about this whole situation. I don't think they're doing very many interviews, and they have agreed to come on to Lost Arts Radio. So that's a pretty big deal. We're looking forward to speaking with them. China is about to unleash a new global monetary system. That's on kingworldnews.com. I don't know about you people, but I am so sick and tired of hearing about Crazy Kim. I really am. North Korea warns of baptism by... North Korea warns of baptism of revenge fire if touchy Kim Jong-un's feelings get hurt. That's on the Express. How long before Crazy Kim can nuke America? Latest test is a huge step forward, experts warn, with North Korea's missile program advancing faster than expected. Yeah, well, thank you Hillary and Bill Clinton for selling them all of the nuclear secrets that they did. Assad dismisses U.S. claims that a Syrian prison is using crematorium to burn executed prisoners as a new Hollywood story detached from reality. The Israel minister says, quote, the time has come to assassinate Bashar Assad. That's on Zero Hedge. Wow. White House on lockdown after fence jumped again. Suspect in custody. Height Securities begins. Contemplating impeachment, here's what to look for. Comey's revenge. Leaks memo to the New York Times saying Trump asked him to end the Flynn investigation. I think Comey could probably say anything he wants and the mainstream media will buy it hook, line, and sinker. Why Comey was fired and the deep state is running scared. That's from Dave Hodges. Trump is going after pedophilia to dislodge the deep state in a stunningly brilliant move. Well, let's hope that's true. That's also from Dave Hodges of The Common Sense Show. And for our last story today, Sweden hardly ever gets anything right anymore, but in this case they did. Sweden votes down mandatory vaccination. Sweden's parliament decided forced vaccination policies are contrary to their citizens' constitutional rights. Well, what about their citizens' constitutional rights about having a flood of Muslim migrants come in and take over and begin raping their women and slaughtering them? What about those constitutional rights? Shouldn't that exist for the same citizens? Okay, that's all for today's Diamond Report. Thanks for listening and watching. And again, as I've said many times, please subscribe to my YouTube channel if you will. I'm not making any money from this. I'm running ads on my videos, but they're getting defunded as quickly as I put them up. They get demonetized. So it's not like I'm making any money off of this. I'm just trying to help get the word out and, you know, make it easy for people to be able to hear a short video with all of the pertinent headlines for the day. So if you would like my Facebook page, The Diamond Report, as well as my YouTube channel, if you could subscribe there, that'd be great. If you don't like what I'm doing, I'm sorry, but I'm not really doing it for everybody. I understand it's not going to please everybody, but I'm okay with that. And I appreciate the nice comments that I've had, and continue to share the videos if you will. And I will see you tomorrow.